What's up, guys? Thanks for watching the podcast. I truly appreciate it. I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe from you. That helps the YouTube channel grow. And I wanted to drop in and remind you one more thing. If you have any friends, family, or anyone you know looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, please have them call me. Get in touch with me via email at blake@blakebaker.net or on Instagram at blakebakerrealestate. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Under Contract podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Under Contract podcast. This is episode number 13. I have a good friend here, Mr. Ryan Allen. Let's give him a round of applause.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know you had sound effects.
I got a couple, yeah. So why don't you just start off by introducing who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Well, God, what do I not do? I'm mainly here because I got started in real estate accidentally by sort of inheriting a house, having to fix it up, thinking to myself, what am I going to do with this place? Turned out I had somewhat of a talent for it. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, here I am.
So this was in like 2011, 12?
Yeah. It was I grew up, you and I grew up kind of in the same area. And one of the things that the area that we grew up in, there was a lot of homes that it wasn't a master planned community, down those streets. And so I moved out to like Sugar Land is where I live now. And so whenever I got this house, it was in a master planned community. And I was kind of lost. Like, what do you do? Because this wasn't a custom home. It wasn't it wasn't on an acre or two. What do you do in this kind of situation? Couple things that, I remember thinking, geez, the school zone is or the school district is super important in those areas.
Oh, yeah.
So that wasn't a thing where we grew up because it was like, there's your high school, good luck.
South Houston, right there.
Yeah.
So for reference, we grew up I grew up on Allen Genoa.
Yeah.
And you grew up, I guess, in Arlington Heights.
Yeah, Arlington Heights. My grandparents and a few other family members lived on Keith Street.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a lot of friends going down Fox Meadow and Allen Genoa also off of like Fox Hollow. Mm-hmm. And so I was there a lot. That was where we spent. Well, I didn't get in trouble at home. I got in trouble over there because everybody had four-wheelers. They had jet skis. We would wreck them all the time. That's where we got in trouble. In the regular residential area, we didn't get in trouble, but over there we got in trouble. Best area in that area for me.
That era, dude, it was.
Yeah, no, that was awesome because there was no rule. It was like no rules. Do whatever you want. Everybody had a mile-long driveway, and you could do whatever the hell you wanted.
It was the Wild West, pretty much.
Yeah, it was.
I was thinking the other day how we used to ride dirt bikes like in Baywood Oaks. Like we'd just cruise to our friends' houses. Now I feel like they would have you on the ground, tased.
Yeah, you'd be arrested.
Yeah,
for sure. We, I got. This is gonna sound nuts. I got guns drawn on me. Went to go check on somebody's house in Pasadena. A friend of mine, they were out of town, wanted me to check. Said, "Hey, you can swim in our pool." So me and my brother Scott and Danny, they all jumped in the pool. We're chilling back there. One of the neighbors called the cops. And they came back there, guns drawn, like, what are y'all doing? Stand up, freaking out. And I'm sitting there going, what are you talking about? Like, on Keith Street, people were in the pool all the time. I mean, we drove motorcycles into the pool. What are you doing?
Yeah. So this was on Keith Street?
No. That would never have, nobody called the cops on Keith Street.
No, dude. We had a dirt bike track on the end of Keith Street. It was called the Hills.
Yeah, down there. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
There'd be 20 not 20, but probably 8 to 10 of us out there all on dirt bikes.
Oh, I know exactly where you're. Well, Dax, actually, his family bought my grandparents' house when they moved.
Oh, okay.
So that's actually where they lived. I mean, my grandparents built that house.
That house on Keith?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, the Ludlows bought that house. They were just the second owners. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather built that house himself. That going back and forth, that's one of the things I remember, like, there wasn't a let's custom build a home. It was my grandpa, like, I'm going to build it.
That's what my grandpa did. He like had a buddy that was a framer,
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, me and him did it.
Yeah, they had this big house on Keith with an enormous. They did hire somebody to do the pool, but then in the traditional, probably 60s, 70s Keith or Pasadena way, they had all of us or my dad and them go and jump on the pool to try to cave it in and make it bigger for the same price. Everything was shady anyway. But no, they got that house built. I mean, it's still there. Makes me think, God, I wish we would have kept that house.
I sold the house on the corner. If you go down Keith and take a right on, like if that house is on
Maze.
the right. Yeah. So I sold the one on the corner of Keith. Is it Maze or Mize?
Maybe Mize.
That one on the corner, right across from the hedges. I sold that one last year.
Yeah, I know the people that live there too.
The Wingates is their name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Wingates were actually friends of mine. They actually lived on Allen, right across the street from where you guys lived. You know that house? It was like it was a 2-story house and long, literally right across the street from you guys.
Yeah.
But they had a really long driveway. That was their brother.
Okay.
And so that's where I got in most of the trouble. Linda Wingate probably watched this.
Yeah.
And she'll probably be like, yeah, I remember you screwed our house up. But
I'm going to have to send this to her.
yeah, no, she will. She's really cool. But no, they had an amazing, I mean, they owned all the way from Allen Genoa to Young.
Yeah.
Like they owned all the way to there. And then her mother lived on Young on that piece of property.
Yeah.
They had goats, they had chickens,
Horses.
Oh my God. It was nuts. And so I go, huge storage thing. They had a couple of RVs. Fast forward, I'm in Sugar Land, and they're like, you want a 70-foot lot or a 60-foot lot? And I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't how things went. You know, it wasn't a custom area. So going back to my story, I got that house in Sugar Land. Looking back, the way I think about it, I was thinking about it on the way over here, actually. I wish I would have kept that house. Who knew the market was going to go nuts?
I wish I would have kept my last house too.
Yeah. I mean, and so, you learn from stuff like that. Like, I wish I would have just leased it out and let the money just roll in. It was paid for. I was lucky enough to have it paid for. And it was a great house on the water, best school in the area. We had over 100 people show up for the open house.
Whoa.
I'm in there sweeping, acting like the cleaning crew because it was that down to the wire. Like the floor was laid, I was cleaning, and the agent said, "Get out of here," And I said, "What? I'm not done. I don't want people walking in here." So I'm like sweeping while these people are walking in. I just act like the cleaning crew, like, "Oh, this is a beautiful house," like trying to play like I don't know what's going on. It sold in like a day. It was a great area. But that house would be double what it was now, when I got it. But the whole thing was, my whole purpose of starting that story is really, I had that house to begin with. If I had have just rented it, of course I wouldn't have gone on to do other things, but it showed me like making money isn't always about, let me just do the greatest thing, like what I'm seeing, you know what I'm saying? So you got like these commercials or a lot of HGTV shows, like showing people how to fix up stuff, flip it, do all that kind of stuff.
YouTube.
Go
search how to flip a house.
Oh my God. I'll never search that. And it drives me nuts because I'm sitting there and I ended up doing it to probably 6, 7, maybe 10 other houses after that, because I enjoyed it. And I had a good crew working for me. We did a lot of stuff. My mom lives in one of the houses now. My aunt lives in one of the houses.
I remember when you were doing that house. I think I went over there and looked at something. It was when I first got into real estate, I want to say.
Yeah, that house, I mean, I'm going to throw some numbers at you and make you sick, but, my family all lived on one street, or it still does, actually. They all live on one street in Houston, in Arlington Heights. And my mom, I grew up there. I was driving down the street, this piece of junk house on the corner. They had it listed for like $100,000. I offered them 50. See what the hell would happen because it was empty. I do a lot of homework before this kind of stuff. So I looked up the owner of the place. He was an investor out in Pearland somewhere. He had like 50 other properties. This is probably really low on his poll. Like he doesn't really care.
And he's probably got a hard money loan just rolling.
He doesn't care. And so I threw 50 out there thinking, I still don't know the guy's name, but I threw 50 grand. He was like, okay, 60.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, dang. And it was such a piece of junk. I wasn't going to even fight it.
You were like 55.
Yeah, I should. No, I wanted to go like 51 and just see what would happen. No, I got it. And started construction. That was my first. That's where I learned a lot of hard lessons. Like I didn't get an inspection when it was all cash deal. Didn't get an inspection. I knew everything was screwed.
But paying that much, you can kind of get away with that.
Yeah, no, everything was just screwed.
Yeah.
Everything had to go.
Yeah.
And so I bought it, started doing stuff to it, started getting a little too excited. Like, man, this would be cool what if we did this? I started adding stuff I shouldn't have.
I remember it was like really nice.
Yeah, it turned out great. And at the time I was pushing what it would be worth. And so my profit was going to be gone. And I thought, no, okay, I'll stop here. I'm not going to replace all of this stuff. And then one day my mom is like, well, what if I buy it? What if I move down there? And I said, that would be awesome, because this house actually has, my mom grew up across the street. My grandparents built that house in the early or mid 60s. So this house was an attorney on a corner lot, and he had a whole office. Like he met clients back there. So it had a whole home, but also an office, like a 3-car garage plus this like office. I saw it and turned it into an apartment. So I turned it into a 2-bedroom apartment, closed in one of the garages. So I added a kitchen, and because all I'm thinking is dollars. Like
I'm remembering all this as you're saying. Yeah. I remember that it didn't have like a weird shower in it.
Oh my God. The shower.
I forgot about that, man.
I can't even, we'll be here all day. The shower quickly, because they were flipping it, and he had hired this bum.
Yes. Yeah.
To live in it and flip it. And so I walk in, I'm like, what's the deal with this shower? So to build a shower, they just filled up a tub of concrete. And so you stepped up like literally the height of this table to get into the shower.
That's different.
That's the nicest way of saying it. I got in there, I'm dropping F-bombs like, what the is this dude doing? Because the last place you want to be, stepping off of 2 feet, covered in soap, is in a freaking bathroom. Like, what are you doing? And so, anyway, the whole house had to go. So I gutted it. And so my mom ended up moving in, and, it's 3 bedrooms in the main house. And then, she's got her garage, and then it has a 2-bedroom apartment, like a guest house with a full living room. She was looking at me like I was crazy. I was like, Mom, you could do whatever, there's HOA rules or whatever that, we're not going to mention right now. But if she wanted to rent it out, she could pay her mortgage.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way. Say you did cut down all your profit to where it was like, I have so much money in this house.
Yeah.
To where if I sold it, I would break even, like zero. You could have, so that was like what, 2017-ish?
2017, yeah.
You could have just held that house and left it empty and rode the market and made 80 grand.
No, 200. I would have made 200,000.
Wow. Yeah.
The house appraised recently. We did some stuff. It was right at 340.
Yeah. So, but I mean, my point being is you have to, we're relatively young. I'll be 33. So I've been in real estate for 6 years. So I haven't seen like a full market cycle. Yeah. When I got in 2017, the beginning of the Trump presidency, the economy was booming.
Yeah.
Real estate was great. Just going up, 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 up. I thought that's how it was going to be.
Yeah.
Now, dude, like it has flipped on its head like that.
Yeah.
So now I'm like getting that perspective of like, oh, like, dude, if I would have bought, just any house from 2013 to 20, really like 18, 19, I would have hit big. I mean, pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I think back, I don't regret it because my mom ended up buying it. She put, I was like, okay, I'm not putting any more into this. It's going to be a loss. And she was like, I want a new roof. I want new windows. I want plantation. So she paid for all that. I was like, that's on you, because I'm not going in the hole. It's for you to, and so she did that kind of stuff, which is cool. And the house is worth, I remember I paid like 60. Yeah, like 60, maybe 65. I don't remember. But now it's like 320, 340.
That's crazy for Arlington Heights.
Nuts. I mean, bonkers. I mean, the house is pretty big because it does have all that room, and then I ended up buying the house across the street. Mm-hmm. When I was doing that one, the guy across the street, his family, his parents had gone into an assisted living center. They needed to unload a house. And he was like, dude, would you want to maybe buy this? So as soon as I closed on that one, I was like, I bought the one across the street. My aunt bought that house. She moved into it for a bit, and I ended up saying, dude, just buy it. And she bought it.
You got a full-time business just selling houses to your relatives.
You don't make no money. You don't make no money. You don't make no money selling to relatives. But it does, it helps me when we go to Christmas parties and stuff, because you got a really nice house. But it showed me, after that I went on to buy more houses for myself. Like my most recent house, it was a piece of junk I bought in COVID. And before I moved into it, I had it completely gutted and redid it. Because as we know, COVID in that 2020 time, selling a house was not the easiest thing to do at all.
At the very beginning, it like stopped.
Yeah. And
then once people realized COVID was not what they made it out to be, then, man, I hope this doesn't get pulled from YouTube for talking about that. I might have to bleep it out. I'm not that big, though. They probably won't see it. But once they realized like what it kind of was, then it took, because, dude, I've said this before on this podcast, I know, but I had that year, because I had no closings in January, no closings in February. And then I think I had one in March. And then by May, I had done like 11.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was that initial lull.
Yeah.
And then boom. Because, dude, interest at 2.5%. I didn't realize that at the time how crazy that is. Now I realize that because it's at freaking 6.75, 7. It's nuts.
Yeah. I financed this new house and then used the rest of my cash to fix it up.
Yeah.
But I was going to live in it, and I was like, look, I'm going to do this right.
So you just got a mortgage, like a traditional mortgage.
I got a traditional mortgage. I put 20% down. The house was relatively very inexpensive for what I got. But the people had already moved out of state. It had been empty for a year. It just wasn't moving. Mm-hmm. And, the longer it sat there, you know this.
Time is not your friend.
No, you know this, but when an agent tells you what to list a house for, you listen to them, because.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Okay. I mean, because I'm not an agent, but I'm telling you right now, every single time I haven't listened, I've been proven wrong. And not only proven wrong, but cost me a month, 2 months. The first offer I got was the highest. I should have taken it. That's always, I can't say it's always what happens, but you know better than me.
No, it's almost always what happens.
Okay. Well, I should have listened.
If you don't sell the house within the first, in this market, really within the first 2 weeks, it is a downhill spiral from there. Like you have got, time is not on your side, especially now.
Well, see, that's what I thought about this house is it had been on the market for over a year. And I looked at the trends.
So they have no leverage at that point. What are they going to say? We have a lot of showings.
No, they lived in Nevada.
Yeah.
And they'd moved a year and a half ago, and they started at 100,000 more than I offered. And I just threw the offer out, and they said, no, we want more. I said, okay, I'll give you more. Let me do an inspection. Knowing this house has been empty for a year and a half, now I'm really going to get a discount.
Yeah.
Because somebody on your end is not telling you the right stuff. Because a house that's empty it's going to have stuff go wrong with nobody there. So of course we found, everything under the sun, and I actually got it for lower than what I offered the first time. So they wish they would have taken it, because my first offer was as is, because I knew it needed stuff. Mm-hmm. So I bought it. If I would have I was thinking about this yesterday, because a friend of mine on my street, They have a very similar home, and they haven't upgraded the entire thing yet. They've done a lot of really cool renovations, but our houses are probably not that different in value. And mine's been gutted and completely redone. And so I look back and I'm like, man, what if I would have just bought it, leased it out? I easily could have doubled my money in the last 2 years, because the house is worth almost double what I paid for it. A little bit more because I did the renovations, but number one, I got a super deal. I mean, that's not every day, I got lucky. But now, I mean, if I were to list it, it would be double what I paid. Yeah. Of course, I put a lot of money into it and stuff to live there, but I love it. I don't have any intention on leaving, but when I do, it'll definitely. I hate to get into stocks; it makes me sick. I want to throw up about it. But at the time, I was thinking, should I just invest this extra money in stocks? And man, I'm glad I did not, because I threw it in this house. I put a bunch of money in the house instead of stocks. And had I put it in stocks, I would have been screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, I kept my stocks there, but I had this other account and I was like, let me put this in this house.
Yeah.
And now I wish I would have bought 2 houses.
Well, the thing with rentals, and my elementary perspective before I ever got in real estate, was you buy a rent house, you lease it out, you get $1,800 a month rent for, just for a basic example.
Yeah.
And yeah, you get an extra $1,800 a month.
Yeah.
Dude, most investors, like I heard a statistics the other day that most rent houses don't even cash flow.
Yeah. You don't make that much.
Like, it costs the owner more than the rent, like per month to keep the house. It costs them more than what the rent is.
Yeah.
So basically all you're doing is, I think it's most people's goal is to just ride the market.
Yeah.
You're breaking even the whole time and you're riding the market. So you buy an asset at 200,000, you ride the market up to 250. You're not making money in the meantime, except when you go to sell, bam, there's 50,000.
Yeah. Or, I think about this because, like I said, my grandparents had their house custom built like in the mid 60s, and they paid like maybe 50,000 back then.
That's a lot back then.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it was it's a big house. Really, for that time, it was a big house. Now it's like, what are you joking? But it's a really nice house.
I mean, it was a pretty good size house.
Yeah. I think it's like 2,500 square feet. And so back then that was like, it was massive for that area. They bought a corner lot. It had a maid's quarters in it. They had my grandparents had a housekeeper that lived with them and took care of the kids and stuff. So, I mean, it's still a very cool house because my grandpa got to design every inch of it, like to last forever. Not the prettiest in some of the areas, but it lasts forever. But I think about that now and I'm like, man, I wish I could have bought a house for $50,000. But like you're saying, if I would have, imagine our grandkids one day going, man, I wish I could have bought a house for $300,000. Like, that's
the thing is, like, you always think in your, like, today, like, how prices are, you're like, man, there's no way I'll ever come out.
Yeah. No, but imagine my grandparents' car is more than their house. They got ripped off in their car, but that's another story. But
the stock market used to be at 5, the Dow was at like, what was the Dow say, like, in the early 90s? Like,
I have no clue.
What is it now? Like 28,000?
I don't know. I could tell you my individual stocks, but even now I can't say I've lost. My portfolio of stocks has gone down quite a bit, but I sleep really good.
I quit checking my phone, dude.
I don't check it. It makes me sick, but I sleep good because
you don't need it. And
again, we're not retirement age. When I get closer to retirement age, I will not have all of my money in stocks like that. My grandfather will not see this probably. Maybe I'll send it to him, but I get onto him like, quit. He's 92 and he trades stocks still. And it scares me because I'm like, he's with it. He will tell you what stock to buy. They this is off the top. They inherited a bunch of Chevron stock back in the early 70s.
Dang.
And sold it last year. Like,
and got paid.
I don't know. I don't know how much it was, but I guarantee you put some money in Chevron in the early 70s. I think it was actually under a different name, not Chevron, but you put that money in there and you look, because I mean, he didn't touch it. My grandmother inherited it, and he just put it in the market.
It was like physical pieces of paper.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like you inherit stock and sell it. It was literally Chevron stock that my grandmother inherited, and he just never sold it. And then last year he's like, maybe we should diversify. And I'm like, okay, 45 years later, so he like sold it. But it was just astronomical, the amount of change in what you and I right now would be like, oh, I'll stick $500, $1,000, $10,000 in this one stock and do. But imagine in 45 years, you're sitting there and that 10,000 is turned into $1 million, and you're like, and then you don't even want to sell it because the dividends coming in are like nuts.
Yeah. And if you don't need it, then why sell it?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
He just sold it because he said, we're getting older and I don't want to watch it that much. And then he quickly put the money back in the market. So whatever.
He might just like to gamble.
He does. I think he may have a separate.
There's a fine line between stock trading and gambling.
You know what he does every day? This won't tell you nothing, but what he does is he goes to his computer every day and he opens up his screen of investments and just clicks print and then puts it face down. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, print face down. And so you can go to his desk. I've never looked, wink, but he's just got a stack of papers here. And every day for like the last 2-3 years is, instead of just, you log in.
Instead of just looking at the graph where you can choose weeks, months, years.
I don't even get into it with him, but that's the old, this is his way of doing it. Mm-hmm. And he's been very successful at it. So I'm not knocking it. He's just doing the elementary version, and he makes money still at 92.
My grandpa used to print out every email. If he got an email, he would print it out.
Yeah. I think mine, no, he didn't get to that. Mine was probably too cheap to buy ink. But if you think about our grandfathers, like that's how I try to be, literally when I go look at a new car, I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, that's a really cool car. I would love to have that car. And at the same time, I'm hearing my grandpa go, what the hell's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. Go over there. That one's $5,000. Just get that piece of junk.
That thing gets you from A to B just like this one does.
Yes. It. But that's why our grandparents were successful, and they weren't making $1 million a year.
And they didn't do it the sexy way. They did it through saving.
Yeah. No, saving, investments,
pensions. It's harder to do that nowadays, granted, but still.
No, it is. It is.
And everybody wants to be rich. Everybody thinks they should just be rich now because of it, like social media, in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing that I tell my kids, like I dropped my son off at high school today, and
wow.
And he, oh man, that's something else.
I thought he was 5.
He's 17.
Okay.
And so I'm dropping him off, and I'm on him all the time. Like, you need to get your driver's license. What's going on? There is no incentive for him to drive at all. At 16, I was like, give me anything.
Yeah.
Him doesn't care. So I'm dropping him off, and I see kids, and they've got brand name this, expensive this, stuff like that, which is cool. I mean, do your thing. But I mention to him all the time, because he comes home and he's like, my friend lives in this section of the neighborhood. They're rich. Mm. And I correct him because I don't want him to fall into that perception of this social media thing. And I go, well, you don't know that. Like in some instances, we could live there, but we would be broke. Mm-hmm. Like I would be sick.
You'd just be super leveraged. You have to tell him like,
yeah, like it, I mean, we don't need a $2 million home.
No, people that are
more power to you. Do it. But we got a small little family. We don't need a $2 million home on the water. That's just not me.
Yeah.
I'd rather work less and be comfortable in that sense. And so that's my grandpa yelling in my ear.
A lot of the wealthy people, you'll never know they're wealthy. And they don't want you to know.
No, honestly, the wealthiest people I know, and I'm sure I can speak for you. I don't even know this to be true, but I bet you it is. You would never know. Because they don't know stuff. They don't do stuff like that. If you went to my grandfather and said, do you want to buy a Rolex? He would be like, actually, this happened to him. I said something to him. I bought a watch one day and he said, look at this. And he snapped his elastic watch and said, look at this. This was CVS. Guess how much this was? And I was like, $5. He's like, $4.
Yeah. But if you told him, okay, Grandpa, look, I just paid $10,000 for this Rolex.
Yeah. I
could sell it on the gray market right now for 17.
I did. I had to argue with him.
Does it make sense now?
Yeah, I did. I had to argue with him, but in his mind, he was like, I'd rather have 17 cash under a gun right here by my lamp. Like that's,
Well, going back to like, if you don't need the money, then why not just enjoy the watch? And if you ever need the money, you can sell the watch and make money.
Yeah. Well, recently in the past, I would say the past 5-6 years, he's been really interested in, well, maybe 10 years in cars. They've never had a car note in their life, and it's not because that's just their way of thinking. They just recently started buying new cars because in grandparents' language, it's got to be dependable. I'm like, every car on the market at grandparent speed, driving once a year is going to be dependable. You're fine.
Yep.
But they want to be dependable. They want to have, right now the best that they can, a Toyota, Lexus, that kind of thing. And I think he's gone through, I want to say at least 5 brand new Lexus in the last 6 years.
Well, he's 91. He needs to just start balling out.
But that's what he did. He was literally like, that's it. We're doing it. He's like, what would you say if I got a Lexus? I was like, you should have bought a Lexus 10 years. What are you doing?
Yeah. When you you can't enjoy stuff as much when you're that old.
You're fine. We're cool. We don't need it. You do you. And so he did. I find, because he would buy Lincolns and, he did the typical grandparent thing and they're cool, but it always shocked me. I'm like, how come grandparents lose sight, lose their reflexes, and then just buy the biggest car available? Like that's the exact opposite.
A cruise ship.
Yeah. Yeah. If you got to pay extra tolls to get to they've never been on a toll road in their life. But anyway, I love him to death. He's a very strict, very no BS kind of guy.
Old school.
Very old school. If I told him this actually happened, my mom won an award at work or something. She was voted teacher of the year for some thing that they had at the school district. She told my grandparents, and because they're going to be proud of her. And my grandmother, started tearing up. She's so happy about it. And my grandfather said, "Well, what? They give you any money?" And she goes, "No, they gave me," and he interrupted and he said, "Horse shit." and I was like, yeah, exactly. They just, that's just him. And I love it because that's what I was thinking. Like
non-emotional.
Congratulations on working your entire life and getting this award. Did you get any money for it? No. Horse shit. At Luby's. I remember that because my mom recorded it because we knew their reaction would be hilarious. But no, I learned so much from him because, at the time he taught me about real estate. He would buy foreclosed properties. He bought, foreclosed storage facilities even.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that.
Me either.
Get me on that train.
Yeah, no, he bought a foreclosed, like big storage facility, took it over, everybody's stuff was in there. But a lot of their stuff in their house is really nice stuff from people that just stopped paying their storage fees.
So, we flipped that Edgebrook storage right there next to South Houston High School.
Yeah.
Dude, and there was probably, I'm not exaggerating, 30 units that had just been abandoned.
Yeah.
So we had to go through and clean them out. And dude, I was pulling like invoices and stuff from briefcases from like 1988, 1990. Yeah. And we ended up finding a coin collection in one of them.
Yeah, their house is full of really nice. I mean, you and I would look at it and be like, "What are you talking about?" But it's like, really nice furniture, really nice grandparents' furniture that they found in there. And I don't know what he must have sold it. He doesn't own it anymore, but he was a definite entrepreneur in that sense. He became a broker, real estate broker.
Really?
After retirement, they retired early. I want to say early 50s, like maybe late 40s, probably early 50s. But they retired early. And then he became a real estate broker. He employed some of his kids. They became, they did not huge. It was just them doing it for people.
Mainly for them to do their own things.
Yeah. But he bought investment properties. He had properties all around that, we had family members that would move into zero discount for. He was not a fan of, you're going to pay the market value, whether you're my kid or not.
I can respect that.
No, I respect the hell out of it. He's tougher than me because I'd be like, oh man, you guys are just getting started out. Let me give you a little bit of it. No, he's like, well, you shouldn't have bought this house then.
Yeah.
Back to my mom, horse shit. So anyway, but he taught me a lot from that side of it because he's so practical and so not super easy to get along with, because if you don't like hearing the truth about stuff, he's probably not the person you want to be around. But it's also really refreshing. My grandmother will sit there and tell you, we played jokes on her and we're like, what I did yesterday is you could say I robbed a bank. And she's like, which one? Like there's not like a gasp of why did you do that? Mm-hmm. It's like,
oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah, that's nice. Who do you know anybody that works there, or like who was working there? I know that lady. Okay. And then my grandfather was like, "You're an idiot. You're going to prison. I'm going to turn you in."
Yeah,
like two opposite.
The cops are on the way right now.
Yeah. So that's my personality of like, look, just do the right thing the first. Because my grandpa would, if he was flipping out, he never flipped a house or anything, but if he bought an investment property, he sure as hell wasn't fixing it up. It was going to stay like that.
My dad's the same way.
He was like, we are not touching. You want to maybe paint it? You could paint it yourself.
Buy it and then sell it owner finance.
Yeah, that's what he did. And so they would, the house on Keith, actually, this is a different set of grandparents, but that was the first interaction I had with somebody I remember I was in 6th grade when they did this, but my grandfather told me we're going to owner finance this. And I actually remember the amount. This is how they were like, what are you doing talking to a 6th grader about owner financing a house to the Ludlows? Like what do I care?
Yeah.
But I remember him saying that. And I remember at the time going, man, is that a lot of money? I don't know if that's a lot of money, but I remember my grandmother, 10 years later, mad because they paid their house off. She was like, oh, these people paid their house off. And I'm
so they lost that stream of income.
Yeah. And I'm like, aren't you happy?
That's
like,
the point.
You just got a big old thing of money. Aren't you? And she enjoyed the interest portion of it. The first 10 years, you're usually mostly interest anyway. So she enjoyed the interest. But yeah, he taught me that one of them was, owner finance and stuff, retired from Budweiser, kept it simple all the way, did really well. The other one was buying up properties, retired early.
Opposites. That's how both my grandpas were complete opposites.
Yeah. And I loved it. Because to this day, I love it.
It helped me.
Yeah. Because I tell you what, when I graduated high school, one of my grandparents gave me, my grandpa, the one that's really business savvy and very strict with everyone. They gave me $50 and a lamp that's like shaped like a turtle. I don't know. I don't like turtles. I wasn't going to a college with turtles. Whatever. They love me to death. They didn't have to get me anything, to be honest, but that's just what they picked.
That's a random item.
They're the king and queen of random item giving.
Okay.
So it's no love lost. None of us need it. So it just becomes kind of a funny thing they give us. The other ones wrote me a check for like $1,000 and they're like, good luck. And you're like 18 and somebody gives you a check for $1,000, like, here, have fun. That like blew my mind. And so what I try to be is like somewhere in the middle, you know, like I want to make the money, but I don't necessarily want to keep it all to myself at all times.
Life's too short for that.
Yeah. And so, because honestly, I don't get, you know, back to your YouTube, you know, or social media, the way people dress, or, you know, they look flashy or they have a flashy car, and that's
everyone's an entrepreneur.
Everybody's an entrepreneur from, anyway, I don't want to offend anybody, but you know, everybody's got to start somewhere, right? And the easiest way, in my opinion, to get there is to focus on the hustle of it rather than looking like
the result.
Yeah. Because you and I both know, once you get to that point, like our grandfathers, they don't give a rat's ass about what brand shirt they're wearing, what brand of car they're driving. You know, like my grandfather didn't buy that car because he wanted everybody to know he bought it because he thought, this is going to hold its value. It's smooth. I'm real worried about gas because I drive 300 miles a year. And I love it. And that was the thing. There wasn't anything like, I want to tell people I have a Lexus.
Yeah.
And that is why I try to do stuff. Like they're not impressed by that kind of stuff. And you and I both know people with real wealth, after a while, that stuff is comical.
Well, once you buy the house, the car, the watch, the boat, you end up at the same point internally.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, okay, I thought this was going to make me feel like this.
I've told my kids. So if you think about it right now, I mean, I'll ask you, but I know my answer. I feel no happier now than I was in high school. Like, I mean, I had fun in high school.
I felt happier in high school.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
because I was naive. I didn't know how the real world worked. I thought it was like a fantasy land.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, like, you know, I like my house. My kids are cool sometimes, like that, you know, like they'll do.
Yeah.
You know, you love your kids and, you know, your family's great, but the happiest times you have for me are when you're with your family or when you can give things to other people.
And you've worked so hard to make a good life for you and your family.
Yeah.
That just is the icing on the cake. Like, we've worked hard. We've set ourselves up to where we can enjoy our lives.
Yeah. Or at least, I mean, do that, enjoy your life. I'm not impressed with somebody having a $3 million home. If that's you, it's fine. But
that's a red flag for me, honestly.
I mean, I'm not going to knock it. I have friends that have them, you know, and that's fine. Nothing against it. But I am much more in admiration for people that have a $200,000 home and $10 million sitting in the bank. Because them moving to a bigger home doesn't matter to them. You know, it's the reason that you see a lot of philanthropists giving their money away. It makes them happier. I'm happier when I can do that. You know, within reason. I'm not going to be deeding my house to my kids at 17 years old, and I'm not going to be buying them brand new cars when they're ready to drive. We're going to, you know, work out. They got to learn something. You know, they can't just be handing them a check. But I like being able to, in case of, and me buying a $2 million house is going to eliminate that. Because I'm going to be sitting there thinking I'm going to buy this house. That's all my money is going to.
If you have somebody who owns a $2 million house, they're probably going to be one of two things. One, they're either going to be leveraged out the ass and barely making the note and maybe even a couple payments behind. Or they're worth $100 million.
Let me tell you, I have some friends, and there's only one friend that I know like this, but he was an attorney in Houston, and he actually grew up in Pasadena, went to Pasadena High School.
Oh, wow.
But he's like a little bit older than my parents. And when his wife went to Milby High School, like they didn't come from money, but he became an attorney. And he won some really big historic cases. And, I mean, I'm not going to give the exact amount, but hundreds of millions of dollars in fees just for him. Everybody else in his firm retired. He went on to, keep working. His practice is still they're still working.
Wow.
Money is of no object whatsoever, but they give, I mean, they have probably a $25 million home in River Oaks. It's beautiful, but the main reason they don't need that big house, it's like 25,000 square feet. They don't need it. But the main reason they have it is to host fundraising events.
And they probably have a charity set up.
Huge. They're really down to earth people. You hear that all the time. But they grew up in Pasadena. It's hard to be a snob. I mean, you really, when you grow up in an area that makes you thankful for stuff, and like you and I are talking about having fun on four-wheelers, like that stuff makes me just as happy as going out and buying a new car. Like that.
Honestly, it gave me the tools to, okay, so I went to a private school. It was pretty sheltered. It was on the Fairmont side of Pasadena.
Yeah.
But I lived
bougie.
Yeah, but I lived on it was, I mean, for Pasadena.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I lived on the other side of Pasadena, and I played all my Little League sports in South Houston.
Yeah,
so
same.
South Houston Little League, South Houston Wildcats football. So I had my school friends, and then I had my sports friends, and it was polar opposite crowds. Like anything bad I ever learned at a young age was from like my South Houston friends.
Oh yeah, I mean, I played South Houston Little League. But let me tell you, I remember my friends, my son goes to I would call it a wealthy high school because of the area that we're in Sugar Land. The taxes are super high. The home prices are pretty high for comparatively to other areas. And so when I see him come home, complain, do different things like that, it's so shocking to me because where I went to high school, like South Houston High School, my brother and Scott and Danny ended up going to Memorial High School. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty much the same, but South Houston High School, I tell people that and they're like, ugh. And I'm like, I get a little defensive because I loved it. I'm not kidding you. I mean, the people I went to school with were some of the most down to earth.
Yes.
Cool.
Not fake. They're not trying to be a certain way.
No, I mean, I'm not kidding you. Some of the people, they may watch this and realize, but I remember stuff like my friend Alex, his mom was the janitor at our school, one of the janitor. And you would think to yourself, that's embarrassing. But then that was the coolest thing. We loved her. Mm-hmm. We loved Alex. We loved his brother. I mean, I have a lot of friends from high school that got married. I mean, I graduated with them, and a year later I look and they're married to each other. They didn't even talk in high school, it seemed like. But I would not change anything in the world because those people were so down to earth. Those people, like I wasn't one of them. But it was the people that I went to school with were so down to earth. I knew no different. We weren't... a lot of them had money. It was just a secret.
Yeah.
And
with those people, I feel like you never get to a point in a conversation where you have to just tell them okay, let's get real. It's like that from the jump.
No. Oh, I mean, I was on the golf team of all things at South Houston. And, I played golf. We played golf every single day. And that sounds great. Now that I'm older, I'm like, damn, I wish I could go back and do that. But we played golf every single day. And that being at South Houston High School, they started calling me Richie Rich because I played golf. Mm. And I think my senior year, I got a Honda Civic. And they were like, Richie. And I'm like, guys, chill. I worked in high school, of course, but they were impressed by that they thought golf was, I'm like, you guys, we don't have to pay. It was free. We don't have to pay, but in their minds, golf was just
like a rich person sport.
That's what rich people do. And it wasn't at all. Again, we paid literally almost no money to do it. But I should have been talking to my son and stuff. The people, it's very separate. There's a football group. There's a basketball group.
With your kids?
My kids. Yeah. There's
you have the baseball players.
It's all different. My kids are part of the weird group, whatever they got to do. I don't care. But I remember this realization, in high school, I was at South Houston High School, and both of my parents graduated from there.
My dad did too.
Yeah. And I would sit there at lunch and I would think to myself like, my parents went here. This place is really old. And I'd look around me and I'm at the table with like the best football players, the best athletes in the school. And then here's this golf loser, like the smallest little guy, me sitting there like, and they're laughing because, I'm sitting there. I don't know how to explain it. I just don't think that could happen now.
Yeah.
Because we accepted everybody as we were just friends.
Just people. You were people first, and then you had like your hobbies second, I guess you would say.
Yeah. But I mean,
kids are also I feel like, this may not be the case for your kids. I hope not, but kids don't know really how to interact anymore.
No, they don't. My kids don't know how to interact.
Because they're just, when you're texting, most of your communications, if most of the communication coming out of your brain is going on to text message, you're going to probably have a harder time orating your thoughts.
No, mine have no clue. And it's really hard to teach that.
Or to like get them to like make a phone call for like, if, I don't know, like in real estate, you have to follow up with people, call people.
Yeah.
It's probably very tough for them to do that.
Mine would get very annoyed. Why do I have to do that?
Can I just text them?
Or why do I even have to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is on me because I sit back and go, damn, I should have been harder on them.
Well, okay. Yeah. But also my opinion is that once they get to where they're about 10, 11, 12 years old, their friends at school are going to influence them more than you will.
No, I lost them. The school district, I wanted them to go to good schools. They're great schools. My brother Scott, he lives out in the same area because they have great schools. But your kids got to be headstrong, no matter if they go to South Houston or there. But they got to be headstrong enough to know, I don't want to be like that person. I want to be like that person. And, I've tried to tell them, like, these quiet kids in school that you don't think are cool, you're probably going to end up working for them. Mm-hmm. So you better chill out. You better not ever make fun of anybody, because my friends that were super quiet and, I hang out with what do they call it? Honors group. Like we had honors classes.
National Honor Society.
Something like that. I think I actually was not in that, but I stole somebody's pen.
I was not, for sure.
I was not in it. I think I didn't qualify, but I stole somebody's pen and I still put it on my jacket. That feels good. I've been holding that in for a long time. We'll get that off my chest.
Nobody knew that till right now.
Nobody knew that. I'm not even ashamed of it now. Sorry, Mom. Anyway, but they in that group, I lost my train of thought. What the hell was I talking about?
National Honor Society, within that group, within the kids that are quiet and you don't think they're cool, but they actually are.
So a lot of my friends that were quiet and just ended up being, you wouldn't think much of them, went on to become educational leaders, went on to become, leading kind of organizations. And then I had friends that, didn't end up going to college after school, but the work ethic that their parents put into them turn them into very successful people. And I'm not talking about like they own $1 billion corporations. It may be like they work for a home builder, but they're the number one salesperson for this custom home builder in the US. And they're pulling in $200,000-$300,000. Or they're selling cars, but they've been doing it for 20 years and they're making $200,000 or $300,000 because they're so good at it.
Keegan, dude, he's the GM of Sterling McCall Toyota.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen someone rise to the top as fast as he did.
Yeah, that's a perfect example because I'm of the belief now. College is good. I think it's important. I think it's more important to teach you how to, for me, manage if you're not going to get a professional degree, if you're not going to become a doctor or like a clinical something, at least get a bachelor's degree to help you learn the basics of, am I getting screwed here or am I not? Know what an interest rate is, know what, what's PMI, you learn these things in your classes.
I think there needs to be a class on just taking action, because so many people just do the paralysis by analysis thing where they just study. They're just book readers and they never actually do anything.
Yeah.
They need a class to say, look, you need to be up every day, like doing at least one thing towards your goal, like every day. Like they don't even teach you that.
I heard it's Gary V. I think you and I have talked about Gary V.
There's a business inside every crackhead. Are you going to let a crackhead out hustle you?
Yeah. So no, but what he says is, people are like, I don't know where to start. He's like, shut the hell up. Start.
Yeah.
Like pick something.
It's not going to be like perfect.
Yeah. Pick it. I mean, cause time is going to pass whether you do something or not. And so,
that's a haunting statement.
Yeah, I've lived by that since I was in college.
I think about, what if I had never got my real estate license? Where would I be now? Oh, dude.
Yeah.
It would be worse. I'll just say it would be worse than where I'm at now.
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I, when we got our real estate licenses, we actually went into the prep for the test together. Remember that?
Yeah. Yes. We went to that class and I think it was like, I forgot what it was, but like 30 minutes in, we both looked at each other and we were like, yeah, this is dumb. Let's go.
But look what happened. I think you stayed and I was like, I'm going to bounce. And look where we are now. You're like a killer. You killed it. And I'm over here like, man, I hope I can do this. No, but everything works out for a reason. But I remember in college thinking to myself, the years are going to go and either I'm going to get through with college or I'm not. Mm-hmm. And so in 4 years for a bachelor's degree, I could be done, or I could be like, man, and I know what's going to happen at 4 years. I'm going to get discouraged. I'm going to be like, this sucks. I don't want to do it. And I'm going to be screwed. I'm glad I got the degree because at a basic, it taught me just basic management. My degree's in business. And so as I went on to run businesses, dental organizations, things like that, we're sitting here talking about real estate, but actually my real world is dental.
I would like to get into that.
Yeah, man. So I ended up meeting a dentist that needed a lot of help with his company, and I don't know how to fix teeth. That's
the back end stuff.
Yeah, the back end stuff. I would hear about, I don't know what to do with this girl at the front. She's terrible. Everybody hates her, and you and I would be like, okay, get rid of her.
She's using her bathroom privileges too much.
Yeah. We haven't seen her in 2 weeks. So whenever people with like a common sense or like a business sense would be like, okay, replace her. That wasn't common sense.
Easier said than done. Because it's tough to fire someone.
No, for sure it is easier. And so that's how this got started. Is I was like, they said, okay, come do it. And I was like, oh, shit, okay.
You just fall into it.
Okay, I'll do it. And so I went in and I never left. And so I ended up building this dental practice. The doctor and I, we built it. They had like 3 employees. When I left, they had like 13. We owned all of the commercial real estate around it. We ended up diversifying and buying a couple of acres for a new center to be built because we did not have the parking for the amount of patients we had. It went nuts, which is a good thing. But it was just a simple business sense of going, hold on a second. Let's apply basic business principles to what you can do. You don't worry about payroll. You don't worry about the loans. I'm going to handle all
You're
that.
basically a consultant.
Yeah, for 10 years. It was supposed to be consultant. It ended up being 10 years long. And then after that, I got recruited to another place in Houston. And then I went on to, this is all like real estate is still going on the side. And then I went on to work for a company that puts dental offices at universities and corporate campuses. Wow. So like the closest one to here, we had an office at University of Houston. So like Campus Smiles, University of Houston.
So like students would go get their teeth cleaned and stuff?
Students, faculty, staff. That was actually open to the public, so all of the public can go.
That's cool.
And then I was traveling the country. I had them at UCLA, Duke University in Durham, North Carolina, UNC, NC State. We were building more in that area. a lot in Texas, SMU, ExxonMobil in the Woodlands.
I was going to say that when you said corporate campus, that's like the only one I really know of.
We have I'm not there anymore. We had a big office at ExxonMobil. Awesome platform for this kind of stuff, because these companies don't want their employees leaving during the day, not because they want them trapped, but if I'm going to hire you on to come work at Exxon, here's your great salary, but also you can have all of your lunch here. We'll do your laundry. We'll wash your car.
You can work out.
Here's a doctor. Here's a UPS, FedEx, if you could ship stuff. And here's also they had a full salon. And then we had a huge dental office there. And, not to get into the particulars, but Exxon has great benefits for their employees. So, like as far as insurance stuff. So they had like 4 cleanings a year, as opposed to most people had like 2. Mm-hmm. So they were coming down there a lot. Phillips 66, we did places like that, BMC software, super cool platform. It's not, it's definitely not a space that I would encourage others to go into, just because it is so hard to get into those spaces. And it's really profitable as a single person to open up your own practice. So you can work for other people, which is cool. People do that all the time. But if you're going to open your own, it definitely needs to be open to the public, not closed to a certain group.
Right.
We had a niche, but my background was all in public dentistry. So I would manage these larger offices or larger groups to where we were open to the public. So I could market the hell out of it and get people from all over. At one of them, we did full mouth restorations. They would extract, people needed all new teeth. And so we had an anesthesiologist on staff. They would take all their teeth out or whatever was left and make, implants. They would build new teeth. They were beautiful at the end.
That's popular now, man. People are getting that for no reason, I feel like.
Oh my God, it's so gross when I'm not good with the blood thing. And so walking by there when they're doing the surgery, let me get a drink. Hold on.
No, dude. Anything with dental work, it makes me I just get anxiety.
When they came to pay, I was like, it's on. Because I was like, we did cases that were $75,000, $100,000.
Wow. For like a full mouth restoration?
Yeah, full mouth restoration. The funny thing was when I started there, they would advertise. Their website had, my degree is specifically in marketing, business administration and marketing. And so when I went in there, I look at things from a marketing perspective. Stuff you doing stuff like this is killer. Like, that's great. They would do stuff like advertise people in tuxedos and like limousines.
Who can relate to that?
Well, so that was my first question. I was thinking maybe that's their clientele. And so as I started meeting some of the patients, this is a huge office, and they had multiple like sites. But what I started to realize is the people that are dressing up in tuxedos and riding in first of all, nobody rides a limousine anymore. Anyway, it was kind of antiquated, but though they don't need new teeth. We need to be targeting people that need new teeth and targeting general, like normal working class people and treating them with a lot of respect, because I know a lot of working class people. Even myself, if I saw a dental office, it's like people in tuxedos, they'd be like, I'm not going there.
First of all, it's just weird. Like, that's like some 1970s bullshit.
Yeah. It was, I thought it was working when I walked in, and they're like, we don't know what's going on. Anyway, we switched it to just be like, dude, chill out. Everybody is welcome, because the people with bad, oral care, it's not because a lot of times because they don't take care of it. It may just be a hereditary thing.
Well, I think the best marketing for dental stuff that I've seen is the ones where it's like, hey, we know no one likes coming to the dentist. Yeah. We know it makes you nervous. And I don't know how exactly it works, but they make it seem like we'll dope you up and
so they could do a lot of things. A lot of them use headphones to kind of
anything to make it less scary.
They even make dental chairs with massagers in it, like slowly. If you sit in a chair too long, your ass starts to go numb. This thing has like a slow massage that'll do it.
I had a dentist prescribe me Valium one time.
Before your visit?
Yes.
Yeah, that's very common.
Before my wisdom teeth.
Yeah. Actually, me too, when I had mine done. And then the medicine they give you, the IV, I'm guessing you had an IV as well. You don't remember anything.
Well, he goes, you're going to be awake through the whole thing. And I'm like, awake? He goes, yeah, but not really.
And do you remember anything from it?
He goes, they put the thing in my arm, and he goes, okay, start counting backwards. And it was like I was there, and it went. And I was like, okay, when are you going to start? He's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, it was just a skip in time.
Yeah, I don't know what drug that is, but it literally makes you, it has a thing in there that makes you forget.
It was a time warp, bro. I don't remember a single thing. I don't remember.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember falling asleep. I remember that. I just remember getting there and then being wheeled out and saying, I can walk. And they're like, no, trust me, you can't. Yeah. Wheeling me to the car. But, there's so many different things in dentistry. But, the main thing is, in that sense, find somebody you like. If they can't do something, they're hands down going to refer you to somebody else.
Yeah, someone good.
Yeah, there's a lot of specialty, endodontist, oral surgeons, things like that they'll be able to help you out with. At our locations, a lot of kids at college, they need their wisdom teeth taken out at that age. And so that's a big market for college students. So if you're around that age and
18, 19, that was 19.
Yeah. I don't remember anything. So I don't even know how old I was, but I had braces. I did Invisalign. I did wisdom teeth. I should have just had everything pulled out and started new. It probably would have been cheaper. Like we had people do that. We had people from like, I can say this cause I don't remember the guy's name. We had people from Mexico come up, traveled from Mexico to one of our offices, and they needed some work, and they would be like, just pull all of them and make me a new set. And so it's kind of like a denture, but it's custom made on site. We had artists like ceramists make everything. And then they would make the upper and lower arches, they're called, put them in. You can't tell that they're not their real teeth. They're beautiful. And I remember talking to this guy because I eventually took over the finances for some of the cases. And I remember talking to him, and he, I don't think money was an issue, but I asked him, what do you think about, are you happy with your teeth? Like, what do you think it's going to do? Today's going to be this amount of money. And he said, just talk to my wife. And his wife had, her purse was just full of cash. I'm like, oh my God, we're all going to prison. But I was like, okay, whatever. I in my mind, I'm thinking, if we accept the cash, we actually did a service. Okay, we're in the clear.
Yeah,
we're not involved with his business. And then right before I walked out, he goes, "What if somebody were to punch me in my mouth? Would these break?" And we said, there's a chance there is. When you signed the informed consent, there is a chance that those could break. And he said, "Okay, order me a second set." And we were like, what? Like, this dude was anticipating getting his teeth knocked out. And he gave us, I think it was like another 30,000.
Damn.
And we just ordered this. So he has this dude, whether he still has them or not, that's probably 10 years ago, but he's got a second set of teeth somewhere in case he gets his teeth knocked out.
It's like you wanted to ask questions, but then you didn't.
Yeah, I played it off like everybody does that. I was like, oh yeah, we do that all the time. No big deal. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Get me out of here. My palms are like, I don't remember your face. I'm not looking at you.
Yeah, we were never here.
Yeah, we were never here. Good luck on your trip back to Mexico, and try to keep your teeth in place.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, you see all types. We had at the universities, we would have really cool, patients come in. At UCLA especially, a lot of celebrities' kids go there.
Oh, yeah.
And so I can't say who they are for HIPAA reasons, but they were all a-holes for the most part. Oh, yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but they would come in and they'd be like, "Hello, my name is blank, and my mom and dad are blank." And we're like, okay, that's not how you introduce yourself. Like, I don't go and say, "I'm Ryan, my parents are Kevin and Cynthia Allen. Like I don't do that.
Normal human beings don't do that.
Yeah. So when that came out, and Los Angeles is a different planet in itself, but going from Los Angeles to Duke University, very different scope of people.
Oh yeah.
UCLA is more laid back. Do what you want. Can you just say a prayer over my teeth and they'll heal? I believe in everything holistic, that you don't have to fix it.
Do y'all have any salt crystals I can hold while you do the procedure?
Yeah, exactly. I have a crystal. Can you embed it in my gums? No, we don't do that here. And then Duke University was more like, here's my black Amex and I want you to fix everything.
And I don't want to have any conversation. By the way, I'm a law major, and if you mess this up, I'm going to sue you. I'm not kidding you. That came out of somebody's mouth at least once a week. It was not fun. But it was fun. It was a fun thing. I'm actually interviewing for there's some really cool jobs that I've been looking at for a while. Trying to look outside of dental. A couple of them are like working with the eye, some specialists. Some of them are like veterinary, which I thought would be really cool to get into, because really my operations experience across the nation could be used in these different fields, I guess you could say. It's got to be a very similar business model, huh?
It is. Because basically I'm not doing the clinical stuff. I'm simply doing hey, I'm going to train your team on how to greet patients. I'm going to train your team on what to say when they answer the phone. I'm going to track your production per patient. We're going to look at how we can increase that. I'm going to schedule your marketing, all the operations. So the clinicians, the doctors, they can concentrate on what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Because their earning potential per hour is this amount. And to have that person handling the postcard reminders is ridiculous.
That's the same way with real estate. Like I've hired a transaction coordinator because it doesn't make me money to be doing back end paperwork. So I could be.
No, but that's how you grow a lot of people think I don't want to spend that money. And you're like, you literally cannot afford not to. Mm-hmm. Like you would be stupid to do that.
Especially in medical. Can you imagine working on patients all day, plus doing payroll, plus managing your employees?
It happens. And what happens is sometimes there's nothing wrong with it, but you hit a ceiling.
Yes.
You cannot go beyond.
Yes.
I have friends that are dentists that are kind of close to retirement age, and they've had their same practice for 40 years, and they can't. There's no way. Mm-hmm. Because you and I may sit there and go, you know what? Why don't we take this and put another one here and here, or maybe expand this one? What else could we do? They're not interested in that. And that's cool. That's just not what they want to do. But just for the simplicity of, let me do my craft. This is my profession. I just want to do this.
Yeah.
And so when you can, that's what I did for the dentist, that first dentist that I was with it was actually in Wharton, Texas. Which was great. Real estate was cheap. Fees for dentistry weren't much lower. Overhead was lower because the cost of staffing is lower. And there was like 3 dentists. So we ended up becoming like kind of a monopoly in that area.
A third of the market.
Yeah. I mean, more than that. Cause I opened it up to kind of catering specifically to kids, just cause on the demographic of the area, it was like kids central.
Really?
And nobody else saw kids. And so as soon as I flipped the switch saying, hey, we see kids, got another doctor for kids, of course the parents are just going to go where their kids go. Mm-hmm. We weren't like a strictly pediatric thing, but just common sense is like, okay, if Blake is going to bring his son to go get his teeth done here, he's probably going to get his teeth done here too.
And we're going to loop Blake in too.
Yeah. We're going to make a whole family appointment, just knock it out, rather than you having 2 different places. So, that sounds easy. It sounds like that's just low-hanging fruit, but a lot of people don't think of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Just like, some doctors just like, I don't want to deal with kids. And sometimes I don't blame them. They're screaming, they're freaking out. I don't blame you. But some of them you give them Valium like you got. Some of them are taken to hospitals to be able to do their, have an anesthesiologist do their stuff. Cause it's important. But anyway, it's a really cool field. That, but I like I said, I think I'm gonna venture out into. There's a really cool group here in Houston that's kind of taken over the eye space, and I'm in talks with them now. I think they're a really cool group. But same thing operationally, and again, that's until I run out of energy, I'll still keep doing the real estate thing on the side and just have the passive stuff coming in. And then one day, who knows, we may, by the time I retire, maybe there's another huge uptick in the market and I could be like, peace out, y'all. And I don't even know that I would do that because I would be bored as hell at home. So I'd probably just keep doing it. Yeah. Because at that point, what do you do? Just sit home and watch TV and get big. That's what if I sat at home for that long, I would just gain.
Just sit at home and eat just loaves of bread.
Yeah. Literally I would be Uber Eating. I live so far back in my neighborhood. I'm living on Uber Eats now because I'm like, I'm not driving 45 minutes to get out to Subway or McDonald's or something like that. So, no, a lot of people, I'm saying this because I remember being younger going, man, I can't wait till I do this and I can do this and I can just stop working. And now I'm like, I don't want to stop working.
I never want to fully retire.
Like I can't do it. It would drive me nuts.
I think the average, I heard this fact that it was something like when men retire, they usually live about 10 years after retirement.
I've heard that.
Because, dude, if you're waking up and going and doing your, hopefully something you like halfway, your purpose, or your job, you feel like you're contributing to society, then that just stops and you're just sitting there doing crossword puzzles all day.
Oh, trust me. I left this last company about 2-3 months ago. And I thought, I'm going to take this time. I'm going to work on some real estate stuff and do that. A lot of yard stuff, just stuff I like. And real quick, it turned into, I got to get the hell out of here because this is driving me nuts. I don't even know if I could work from home. I've seen jobs open. They're like, work from home. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I need a little break.
I like to get out of the house.
Yeah. It sounds great, but I just don't think it's for me.
Yeah. One thing I did want to talk to you about, you were saying before the podcast about how you do your flips a different way compared to like a traditional flipper. What would be like, how do you do it? And how is it different than somebody who just pays cash for it, flips it, sells it, or hard money, etc.?
Yeah. So first of all, there's really no wrong way. It's just based on what your goals are. And so I'm not a flipper that's got like 15 projects at a time. I don't have the bandwidth to be like, I got all these projects. I'm better at one at a time kind of a deal. So what I'll do is I'll purchase a place like my current home. Purchased it during COVID, got a good deal on it, put a lot of money into it. And what I'll do is live there for at least 2 years. I love the house, so it may be longer. And then sell that. The equity is huge already because of the recent increase we've had. And then parlay that into another property and just keep going.
And the main thing there that we were talking about was that you avoid short-term capital gains that way. Yeah.
Cause I've done the short-term thing. The house my mom is in, that was a purely break even because that was it was her house. I was like, okay, I'm not going to rip my mom off kind of a deal. And I just wanted to leave it. I couldn't sleep thinking, oh man, I screwed my mom over. So, with that one, I didn't have any capital gains. So that was a little bit different. But when I bought the house across the street, I did have some capital gains. But what I had them do, it was a lease to own. And they leased it for a while because they were going to fix up their other house. They eventually decided to buy it. And what I had them do was we closed on it a year and a week or 2 years and a week after I owned it. Now it wasn't my homestead, but it changed. I think it may have been a year. I can't remember, but it changed the short term to long term.
Yeah.
And instead of the short term being my effective tax rate, like an income tax, I got long term capital gains.
There you go.
And I want to say it went to 15%, 10%.
Yeah.
But even if you do that and you roll that, there's also a tax rule. I don't know. I can't remember the exact thing, but if you roll that into another home,
Like a 1031 exchange.
that's what it is. Yeah. So if you roll that into another home, you can do that and avoid taxes on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I just kept doing. And eventually, I mean,
Well, you don't avoid them. You kick the can down the road until.
You avoid writing a check at that instant.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and you know, my whole thing is like, oh, how can I not pay taxes? Sometimes it's not a big deal. And you're like, whew, I've made money sometimes on properties and stuff. And the CPA is like, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but you owed this amount. And she's shocked when I'm like, no problem.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten to the point now where any major financial decision I make, I call my CPA first and say, if I do this, what happens?
Yeah. but I mean, it's, you have to look at all sides of it because there's tax implications. There's, you're going to pay taxes at some point. You're going to do it, but there's different modes to where you can do that. So
Long-term capital gains is a good one to pay.
Long-term capital gains. If you're leasing a house and you're making $300 a month, let's say that's your profit, after everything. Cause it's very rare that somebody's bringing in $2,000 a month on a rental property, unless it's just completely owned outright and it's leasing for $4,000 because you still own, you don't have a homestead exemption. You're paying property taxes. Insurance is higher because you're not there. So all these things matter. And then you factor in like fixing the house after somebody's done stuff to it. They go in and they paint the walls purple. You got to
Crayons on the wall.
Yeah. You got to flip it back. They've stolen the oven, whatever you got to do to fix it. You may only make $300, $500, let's say a month. Well, if you don't need it, shove that into a Roth IRA, and I can't remember the limit now. It may be like $7,000, but what you can do is if you make less than a certain amount, you're still eligible for a Roth IRA. And if you throw that money into a Roth IRA, it'll grow tax-free as opposed to, so you, if this makes any sense. So if you've got this money coming in, instead of it showing a $6,000 profit, what you can do is there's ways around paying the full profit because you need to, itemize your expenses on the property, show everything that you're doing for the upkeep. And maybe you can get it to zero. Good CPA will show you things like you didn't know you could do.
Right.
The insurance, all these things that you're using. But if you can get to the point where you're funneling that money, and this is something I've done, funnel that money into a Roth IRA, invest it however you want. To me, I say moderately, just depending on your age. But as you're investing and that's growing, the value of the house is growing. And so, every couple of years, maybe you recalculate the rent and that goes up a little bit. So as that's happening, you may get 10 years down the line and the interest rate is back to 2.75.
Yeah. So you're riding the market with the house and with the income that the house is producing.
Correct. But what'll happen is I'm not opposed to debt when it comes to things like this. So I'm not a fan of, you give me $300,000. I'm not a fan of, let me buy a $300,000 house.
Right.
I'm more of a fan of, let me buy 3 homes
and put $100,000 down
on each, and then
or 10,000 down on 30 homes.
Yeah. something that I can manage.
Yeah.
I don't want to it sounds great to have 30 homes, but I'm going to lose my mind.
That would get crazy. You'd have to hire a group to manage it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me say I got 3 homes and I put $100,000 down on $300,000 homes. So now I've got $900,000 worth and I owe, what is that? $600,000. So let's say I'm making $3,000 a month on each one. Okay. And after all that, I'm making $300 a month. I mean, that's going to be the reality at the beginning, because I'm not looking to get rich off of this immediately.
Right.
Yeah. And so over time, let's say 10 years down the road, interest rates fall back down to 2 point whatever. and I've shown long-term income on these things. I can refinance them, and I don't have a problem refinancing them for 15 or 30 years because I'm going to get that rate. I'm going to get that payment down because I've got so much equity now. I'm going to get the payment down. If I was paying $2,000 a month before, I'm going to try to get it down to close to $1,000.
You could do a cash out refi and buy another property.
Correct.
I've heard a lot of the big dogs that are in real estate on YouTube. Funny that I was just bashing YouTube real estate.
Well, you got to follow the experts on YouTube,
right? But they talk about how they have a schedule, like they refinance every X amount of years.
Yeah, because it's not so much. A lot of people are, and like my grandfather. My grandfather would never do that because he was so like, I want to see the cash.
Yep.
I want to make a cash buttload of money on this deal. Fine, but for me, the new way of doing it, I don't have a pension. My job doesn't have a pension. Mm-mm. We don't have stuff like that. Houses aren't 50 grand. Their house note was like $300 a month, that kind of stuff. Those days are gone. Healthcare costs are higher. There's a lot of stuff that's higher. And so I don't have an issue with having loans on stuff and using it as a vehicle to not only having the income, but in my, people get hung up on, I want to make $1,000 income on each house, let's say. That's great. What I want to do is have my regular job and still have that money and never touch it, and just keep bankrolling that and pretend like it never happened.
And another thing with debt is you can write your whatever interest you're paying on the loans on those rentals, that's an expense, and you can write that off your taxes.
Yeah, the interest, and really, when you write that off, and I don't know the exact calculation, your CPA would know, but when you're writing that off, it decreases that interest even more. Because if you're looking at, let's say you're paying 3% and you can write off all of it. And so let's say you get a deduction of 10% of that 3%. So now that one little piece is even less than what you were paying on the 3%. So it gets really detailed. These are the kind of details I love because you can, and it's not tricking anything. This is all legal stuff.
Yeah.
It's just stuff an attorney or a CPA will need to tell you. And everybody's different. So, if you're in a higher tax bracket, it may not be worth doing certain things. If you're in a lower tax bracket, it is worth it. Or if you're married, it may be better to have it in your wife's name, your spouse's name, or have it in an LLC to where you can operate out of that. And the LLC pays for your vehicles to maintain the properties, or, you need a commercial vehicle with a full write-off. People are going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but the G-Class Mercedes, that huge beast of a Mercedes, is a huge write-off.
Because it's over that certain weight that it has to be.
And so you see those and you're like, what are people doing with these things? Like, that's ridiculous.
It's for a tax write-off.
It's a tax write-off.
And you have to reassess it every year. Because for me, what I was telling you before the podcast about my situation last year, what used to make sense for me no longer makes sense.
Correct. Yeah.
And it went south on me. So now I got to restructure.
Yeah. I was talking, I'm getting calls now to refinance my house that I'm in. And I'm locked in at like 2.65 something. Ridiculous.
Free money.
Yeah. And so, and then on top of that, I get to deduct it. Because it's ridiculous. Like, come on. I have no incentive to pay that off. There's not that much owed on the house. I'm not going to pay it off. That's ridiculous.
I have a 3.25 on this, and my financial advisor said, do not ever pay your house off.
You would be, if I opened up my Chase app right now, I could show you, I don't want to look at it because I'll probably throw up right here because if I see how much money I've lost on stuff, but if it's nothing for me to make 2.25%, 3%, 10% on a stock over time. And so if you're telling me I got to pay 2.25% or 2 3/4 interest, that's tax deductible versus in this Roth IRA that I have, and I've transferred to an IRA now. But if I'm gaining that money at a 5 to 10% over long periods of time, heck yeah, I'm going that route. Especially when I'm saving this over here. I'm not going to tell you the exact numbers, but this is probably sure for you too. I pay less in my mortgage than most people pay for an apartment.
Yeah.
I mean, and I hate to say that because, driving here, I see so many apartments being built.
It's nutty.
Not even in your area, all areas.
Yes.
They're building
everywhere.
and I would guess they're 1,500 minimum, for a nice one. And without giving too much away, my house note is less than that, and I don't live in $1 million home, but
with taxes and insurance?
Hell no.
I was going to say.
No. I don't escrow anything.
With taxes and insurance, yeah. Well, I mean, if you back out the taxes and insurance, mine's probably somewhere around maybe a little less than that.
Yeah. No, but think about that. Like, we're not living in $5 million estates, nor do I want to, but it is shocking that these apartments makes me want to own a bunch of apartments, honestly. But, I'm sitting there like, in my brain, it's how much per square foot is this producing? And
these people that live in these apartments, they think they're not paying property tax. Like, I have an apartment, I don't pay property tax. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, a lot more than I am.
Yeah, you're paying your landlord's property tax.
Yeah, because in my house, let's say I want to say 3,000 square feet, so 3 apartments. Not even. I mean, the last apartment, I looked at some apartments I've even thought about just starting to lease everything out and go and live in an apartment.
You do 4 out of 700 square foot apartment.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. If it was a 700 square foot apartment, which I think is about normal for a 1 bedroom, that would be, I mean, in Sugar Land, you're looking at $6,000 a month because those are at least $1,500 a month.
Wait, say that again.
So 4 apartments.
Oh, 4 apartments.
Yeah, 4 apartments at $1,500 a month is $6,000 a month. I'm over here living in the same amount of space for
a quarter of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying anybody's getting screwed on anything like that. That apartments are fine. Like I was saying, I've thought about, if I took my properties and said, you know what, I'm just going to lease them out.
Get an apartment.
And get an apartment.
I kind of I liked living in an apartment when I lived in one.
I mean, I'm not knocking it. I mean, I still believe in owning the asset of the real estate. But if I really wanted to say, look, I'm going to retire early, I'd be in an apartment and letting these properties pay for it.
Yeah. You don't have to mow the grass. If the plumbing breaks, you call maintenance. There is advantages big time.
Yeah, there's advantages to that. But at the same time, I'm not opposed to buying more houses. I'd rather buy more houses than live in an apartment. I love my house. That's why I stay there. But, and my son would kill me if I would kill him if I had to be in close quarters with him too long. But, there's nothing wrong with it being an apartment, but at the same time, you have to look at long-term, are you going to be, do you want to pay that to somebody else? Or you want to essentially pay it to yourself? For a long time, people say, oh, the first couple of years you're paying mostly interest. Yeah, but you got to look at, first of all, the difference between a 30-year and 15-year mortgage are not that much. A lot of people think it's going to be double. It's not double. No. A lot of people think it is. But usually the rates for 15 are a little bit lower. And whenever you pull those numbers, I'm always shocked to go, you think about 15 years of payments deleted by adding a couple $100, not couple, it's probably like five, depending on where you're at, but let's say $500-600 extra a month. Some people can't do it, fine. But instead of buying that house that is, $150,000-200,000 more than you got now, double up, practice making those payments.
Yeah. So I put $600 a month additional towards principal on this house.
Yeah.
It took my mortgage from a 30-year mortgage to where now I'll have it paid off in 16 years.
Yeah. And see, the cool thing about that is that's totally up to you. Yeah. You don't have to do it next month.
And if next month I decide I want to quit doing that, I can.
Forever. You don't ever have to do it again. But you're not locked in. And so that freedom, it's not just a lot of people think financial freedom is having everything paid off. It's not the case. I mean,
it used to be.
It used to be. No, it used to be my grandparents, they've got everything paid off, and that's cool. Trust me, I would love it. But I know that right now, if I paid everything off, in about 6 months, I would be chomping at the bit to start getting equity lines of credit and buying more stuff.
Because all your cash is tied up in everything you own.
Yeah. And in Texas, my house isn't going to double in a year. So I'm going to use that money to start getting passive income from other things, probably back into corporate stuff. When we had that office out in Wharton, we killed it on commercial real estate because we were able to build cheap back in those days, like 2003, 2004, but the practice was built, and then we put it into it was an LLC with our family, and then the practice paid money to the LLC so that that was our main source of income. And what happens is our effective tax rate, like if I'm going to pay you $50,000 a year, you're going to pay this percentage in taxes. But if I pay you $50,000 a year in rental income, there's all kinds of business you can do. Mm-hmm. The write-offs, the improvements, the different things you could do. And all the while your assets going up. So I'm always a fan of anybody owning their own commercial real estate, it's daunting because it's expensive, but if you could own it and and have the business pay you for it, first of all, you're not mad that somebody raised the rent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your business is making more money. What we did, we went from $3,000 a month, I think we were paying. And then the practice is doing real well. We're making tons of money. And I said, we got to raise this. And I asked the CPA, what should we raise it to? We did the calculations on the square footage. We raised it like to $7,000 or $8,000 a month. And that was shocking to me because I was like, it was almost free and clear. Mm-hmm. That money came in, and then the LLC was responsible for the taxes, and the money just built up. So you're able to write these things off. It came in, and, I had my kids on it, and my kids are in an effective tax rate down to like almost nothing.
Right.
And so it protected us in a number of ways. Something happens to us, it goes to the kids immediately.
Yeah.
There's no, hey, he said I could have this property. No. My kids are taken care of forever.
This is something that anybody can listen to. Like everything you just said is something anybody could listen to and take to heart, and it would apply to them.
Yeah, because a lot of people have it. I'm not saying this like it's a pipe dream, like you can't do it. It's normal everyday stuff that, when my mom sold her old house that we grew up in to buy this new house, I look back now and I'm like, my mom is single, and, she's a school teacher, and she went and bought this brand new home, that we had done. It wasn't cheap, but she was able to do it because
a normal 60-year-old school teacher, like just a run of the mill, would not be able to do something like that.
Yeah. But it was because her other house, I told her, Mom, this is what she was like, I could never afford that. And I said, hold up. Let's crunch the numbers. Mm-hmm. Let's say we get down here and let's see what your house is worth. And she rattled off a number. I said, you're so off. You're living in like 1952.
Yeah.
And so when we pulled what the house is worth, she showed all this equity. And I said, look, you have the option. I even thought about, you give me that house, I'll give you this one. I'm going to keep this other one as a rental property because I know all the history of it. I grew up in this house, mm-hmm. and I can rent it and I could just chill. Mm-hmm. We decided not to do that. She sold it, used some of the money to put down on this. She said, I want to put it all down. I'm scared of a loan. I said, screw it. You got so much equity in the new house. Just freaking put the minimum down. Stop trying to be, the 1950s, let's pay cash for a house, which nothing against it. Pay cash for a house if you want. I don't have anything against it. But I told her, look, if it's going to be an issue, let me show you what the payments would be. I'm over here selling the house like I'm her agent. I don't really care. But if I recommended it for my own mother, I got her in there. I said, Mom, you literally have an apartment on here. My middle brother is a workaholic. And he manages Pasadena Golf Course. He's worked there. This fool has worked there. Let me see. What year is that? Now, I can't even imagine.
20 years.
He's worked there at least 20 years. at least. He started there at 16 in high school, and he's there now running it. It's, I guess, 30. He's 36, 37 years old. And I told him, Keith, with the city, you can retire. He's never going to retire. He
loves golf.
He loves it. 7 days a week, he's there all the time. Mad respect for him because if I had to hire somebody like as an employee in a company I had, I would be like grabbing him because he is the most faithful. Like he maybe we actually had to have a talk because I said, you are literally letting the last time we talked, he had years of sick time built up. The city eventually put a cap on it to where I told him, take some vacation days, dude. Like, give me a break. Like, you're just wasting it. But he's not wasting because he loves going to work.
No, not many people can say that, dude.
He loves it.
That's awesome.
And he is super chill. Like, he doesn't have a worry in the world. But I told him, Keith, hey, you're never at home. Rent that house from mom.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
I said, okay, how much is your mortgage? I don't know what it is. $700, let's say, without her stuff, just the principal and interest. And I think the apartment rented for around that. I said, okay, so what's your house payment? Oh, 0? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, so it's helping people think outside of the box of, oh, I can't do that. There's
what's the saying? There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah. And I'm not, and it's my own family, so I'm not going to screw them over. And I don't want to screw anybody over. I'm not my grandfather, but I want them to realize their, my other brother bought a house I used to live in, and I didn't want him to think I was trying to shove it down his throat. Like, you have to buy this. It genuinely was a good idea for him to buy it. Weird real estate thing, but if you are, selling to I think it's a family member or somebody, it may not just be a family member, but in our case, it was selling a home to a family member. I was able to put the price of the house at a certain amount, which was still a steal. And then I gave him the down payment, but I didn't really give him the down payment. Do you know what I'm saying? So what on paper, it was, whatever the house appraised for a lot more than I sold it to him for. Because again, I'm not in the business of living off of what I've reaped my family for. So in that sense, let's say you own a home that's $300,000 and you want to get, your son or somebody's going to buy it. And I'm agreeing to $250,000. Well, if they don't want to put, Scott put money down, of course, but you got to put over 20% down to get rid of PMI, that kind of stuff. Yep. So I was like, you don't want to pay PMI, nothing wrong with it. Cause after a certain while you can refinance and get rid of it. But I was like, I can accent at closing at the title company. We can show the house is worth this much and I'm granting you this amount of money as part of your down payment. So it's a gift.
Right.
And so what happened is that difference brought the house to where it was below 20%. The loan to value was 80-20.
So he avoided PMI.
He avoided PMI. And, it wasn't that much per month, but still that kind of stuff. It was a neat tactic for family members that are wanting to do a transfer of a home to somebody or sell it to a family member, things like that. And I actually think it is only for family members. It might only be. But I remember that was a cool thing we could do, rather than being like, okay, that's the price of the house and good luck. I was like, man, because if I sold the house with an agent, nothing against you guys, but if I sold it for $300,000, I'd probably be back at where I sold it to him for.
Yeah.
And so I was like, he's already wanting the house. Let's swap this fool out.
Just makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and all we're going to do is go to the title company and sign it.
Yep.
And so it hooked him up, helped me get rid of the place. I left damn near everything there. I was like, y'all throw away what you want. Yeah. I don't want to move. I don't want that bed. I don't want that fridge. It's y'all's.
Nice.
And so I moved my stuff. We live in the same neighborhood, but their house is gorgeous. And I feel really good about it because it's appreciated like crazy.
And it's cool that your brother lives there.
No, I love it. I love it because we're so close.
Yeah.
You know, they live maybe 5 minutes away. You know, we're both in the neighborhood's called Greatwood in Sugar Land. It's a really nice area. But we're really close together. And he's always home. It's funny because even though we're not that far, we don't see each other that often. We text a lot. Yeah. We don't see each other. But it's really cool to be able to do stuff like that. And so it was much more important for me to help, like to be able to find a way for my brother, because I was literally like, you have got to be an idiot if you don't do this. Mm-hmm. He wasn't saying no. I just told him like, Scott, I would never lead you in the wrong direction.
He trusts you.
Yeah. I was like, you got to trust me. And so when he did, I'm so glad that he did, because it turned out really good for them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of families with, grandparents that are, unfortunately passing away. And then what do you do with a home? There's different things you can do, but there's ways to set that up maybe before that happens or even after it happens, that things are done the right way. And so it's important to talk to your real estate agent, your CPA, your attorney, to figure out ways to circumvent certain things.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, I'm going to give my kids my house right now. No, stop. They're going to incur this income tax because they've been gifted this thing. Wait till this happens or wait till this happens, do it in a smart way. Mm-hmm. There's other ways around it.
Yeah.
In my kids' case, my kids won't see this, but I can tell you, like, there's no way in hell I would leave my kids my house right now. If something happened to me, they are not the house will go to hell. They'd sell it. They'd end up having all this money in what they do, video games.
Yeah, they're 17.
Yeah, and I would be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
and I'd be in heaven looking down, like, "Y'all are idiots." Like, what? Y'all just ruined everything we worked for. So, yeah, I mean, there's, like I said when I got here, we could talk about this forever, but there's so many cool ways of when you go into a certain house and if you're going to stay there, you want to chill out on the. I told you earlier that, I've gone into flip houses and people are like marble floors everywhere. You really got it. When you do stuff like that, you got to pull it back a notch and realize, if you're going to put your money, just like a stock, are you going to put your money in Apple or are you going to put it in, McDonald's, these plastic, maybe McDonald's is great. I don't know, but you want to put it in something that you're going to get your money back on, mm-hmm. So when I'm choosing certain things to go into homes, I'm looking at, for the little extra money, hardwood floors. Or I'm looking at, in my house, I actually have porcelain wood floors. Right. So they look like wood. They don't have in the construction world, they don't have a rectified edge, mm-hmm. which means I can put them really close, or they do have a rectified edge where I can put them really close to look like actual wood. Picked a real cool grout. I'm not a fan of let's pick a grout that stands out like crazy on a wood floor, because then it's really like, okay, this is just tile.
Yeah.
But in my neighborhood, it's all families. So I know if I ever sell it, it's going to be a family. Their kids are going to be there. Their kids are going to screw up. They're going to throw up. They're going to spill stuff. The mom is just going to want to mop it up. So I'm not going to put down white carpet. I'm not going to put down, I'm not going to put down, beautiful hardwood floors. I'm going to do that porcelain tile from, I don't know, Lumber Liquidator.
Looks decent,
easy to mop it up.
Yep.
I've got dogs. They screw stuff up.
Yep.
But those little ideas, just thinking, don't just think, oh, this is beautiful. You're not moving into the house, mm-hmm. unless you are. For me, I'm moving into the house. I want to pick within reason certain cool stuff. If I was going to do a quick flip, I'm going to pick stuff that's going to be cool, but we're not going to go nuts.
Right.
And we're going to pick it pretty, I don't want to say bland, but we don't need leopard print walls. We don't need cheetah carpet. We need khaki white. It's got to show like, what can I do to this house when I get in there?
Right.
And so I see a lot of people going in and, they want to do cool stuff, but unless you're in like the Heights where, green cabinetry is going to fly, And it does. I've seen cool ass cabinetry green with gold handles. It looks really cool. But in Great Wood in Sugar Land, Texas, no sir.
Yeah.
We ain't having it.
Right.
So you got to stick with your basics. And those are just mistakes I've made. Because, you know, in my mom's house, I'm like, oh, dang, she would really love like navy blue, you know, cabinets.
Yeah.
And God, am I glad I didn't listen to that.
Right.
I listened to my guys like, please just do white.
Yeah.
And it worked out. So.
Well, man, this is gold and I hate to cut this short.
No, let's go. I'm sick of talking.
I've got to get to the gallery area to go show a property.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
And we will see y'all for episode 14. Later.